Uranus retrograde, Taurus 18. It's not just Uranus we're studying, it's Uranus square Saturn. Remembering that. It's like Uranus is walking backwards with this heavy burden on its back. Saturn is like lead. So it's not a free and excited Uranus quite like the usual times anyway because of Saturn square, and it's going through Taurus. You know, Uranus doesn't like being slowed down, really. And yet here we have the image of the 18th degree of Taurus as that which clears the mind, or encouraging us to be more open-minded. And this Uranus does like. Taurus 18, a woman holding a bag out of a window, emptying the mind. A mind that is conditioned to make judgments about right and wrong creates a prideful ego that limits the soul's evolution. It must become open and then cleansed of bigotry and prejudice. Bigotry and prejudice. In other words, even without information, you know what you're going to think about something, whether that's racial prejudice or prejudice against the new as opposed to the old. What you're used to is good, what you have to learn is not. Prejudice, prejudging. We can't move forward on our spiritual path with that heaviness of mind. It's just so limiting. It defeats the purpose of our spiritual practice. The spiritual practice, whatever that might be, meditation, mantra, martial arts, it clears the mind. All of these teachings have the same basic fundament, is that the mind, normally, the normal everyday mind, is gross. It attaches itself to things which are heavy. And yet, spiritual development depends upon stilling that mind, stopping it from vibrating, stopping it from clenching and grasping and denying expression of a new energy. And life is only ever new energy. So anything that you're holding on to, which is old energy, like habits of thought and behavior and appetites, that's necessarily not the life force, because it's not moving. And so Uranus there, with the capacity to crack open the shell of your ego, the prideful ego that knows what's true and that you're right and the other's wrong, that prideful ego. Well, Uranus is quite good at cracking open egos. So that's what we're about. This goes on until around the 8th of November. A few more buzzwords or strap lines here. Thought, belief and habit purified through meditation and open-mindedness. Clearing the mind of unhelpful attitudes. Neither visionary intention nor mundane ability is more spiritual than the other. That's worth remembering, isn't it? We move away from our grasping spiritual certainty that religion is right, as much as we move away from our grasping material belief that money will give you all you want. We know that both of those things are not true, but we still behave as though religion has some secret to spirituality and that money has some secret to happiness. It's just not true. And so many of us would speak of this and proclaim it on a soapbox, but how many actually live as though they believe that? How many people really do give up an opportunity for more money or ignore the teachings of what basically is a religion without any explanation? Most religious beliefs are based on an unprovable faith, a dogmatic, bigoted teaching that's been passed down for thousands of years in some cases. Now, Rudhyar also emphasizes open-mindedness. A woman airing an old bag through the open window of her room, the cleansing of ego consciousness. The traditional teachings concerning man's nature are somehow reconciled with the youthful enthusiasm that sees in every problem of growth an issue between the good and the bad. The symbol suggests that the real enemy is within the mind. It is the ego and its attachments to possessions. We are often causing ourselves to struggle between a higher self and the lower ego. We do this frequently. And there is a teaching here about how best to do that. And it's not necessarily by rigorous discipline, as it has been taught. It is by being open-minded. And one of the tricks of becoming open-minded is to take yourself out of what is familiar to you. In other words, to travel or to study, just to give the mind something else to do. If the mind is simply going over what it knows already, it won't open. So becoming open-minded is an exercise that requires you to change your behaviors in order that you can. It's not enough simply to think you can put aside your prejudice. It's on the unconscious level. You have to do something differently. And I think this is what Jones is more interested in focusing, the possibility of doing something differently. A woman holding a bag out of a window. This is a symbol of the soul's high ministry of service to every purpose and function of living, and of the individual's self-fulfillment as he furthers the overall ends of men in general. There is here an exaltation of every commonplace activity. Life comes to its ultimate fruition as a community realization, with everyone increasingly aware of his fellows and ever seeking to encourage them in their daily routine. The key word is facilitation. So you can see that there's a similarity underneath these three ways of seeing the same Sabian symbol. And that has to do with not only that we must empty our minds, but also how to. And Rudhyar's saying, allow the ego to float into a gentler sense of self. And Jones is saying, serve. Bring about some spiritual service. That'll change your mind. Uranus is quite difficult to assimilate. And that's because its job is to crack open stuck situations. We don't really assimilate that. We either remain uncracked or cracked. That's not to be assimilated. The assimilation process comes after the cracking has occurred. So during this period of the next 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks maybe, we're looking at having challenges, shocks to our sense of what's going on. Our beliefs are going to be radically challenged. And that might not be comfortable at all. You might be shown that what you have believed all of your life is just wrong. I did come across somebody recently who's actually gone through exactly this process, perhaps a little bit early. And she's very distressed indeed, because she had discovered that they're all telling lies. Politicians, marketing people, and so on. She hadn't realized that, and it was a shock to her that actually that's what there is. There are very few people that tell the truth, very few, and almost none in public office, because they're being paid to tell lies very well. And a spiritual seeker has to see through that. And if you can't see by careful study and examination and debate and discussion and reading books, if that still doesn't work on you, then Uranus will actually need to shock you into an awakened understanding that you're being lied to. We're all being lied to. You must assume that someone has an agenda, an angle, when they're giving you some information, whether it's about a product that you should buy or a belief that you should hold. The person who's getting you to do that, they have an agenda. Even the Christians that turn up at your door and give you the word of Jesus and so on, it's not presented in a way of, this is what we think, I wonder what you think. That healthy way of communicating. It's not presented like that. It's, this is how we think, and if you think differently, you're wrong. That's bigotry, and that's prejudice. And most of these people aren't super bright. They haven't actually worked it out. They've just been told to say that with someone else. Now, Uranus isn't having that. Uranus has got a higher level of intelligence than these kind of people. And so you might find a conflict arises between somebody who is pressing you to believe in their own bigotry and prejudice, and your own inner sense of insight into truth of knowledge. There's a huge amount of propaganda going on at the moment for political reasons, and we can't be drawn into it if we want to be free to seek our own freedom in the spiritual sense.